what I'm going to tell you and what you're going to hear is going to make you understand everything that I've been talking about in the past few weeks about these adverts that they keep showing about black man, white woman constantly, or mixed race couples and all that. Not that I ain't got nothing against mixed race relationships, because I've had them myself, right? So don't think I'm coming for you. No, that's not what this is about. It's about noticing what's going on the TV and in films, right? This is gonna answer the questions. And I said before, something's going on. This is gonna show you something's going on, right? First of all, let's start here. Listen.
Did you know that Africa is home to the most genetically diverse people on the planet? But what does that really mean? And why is African DNA so unique compared to the rest of the world? Think about this. Every single person on Earth can trace their ancestral roots back to Africa. That's right, whether you're living in Asia, Europe, the Americas, or Australia, the genetic blueprint of humanity began on the African continent. But how does that impact the way we view genetics, evolution, and even the future of medicine? Today, we're diving deep into the science, history, and cultural importance of African DNA. We'll explore its incredible diversity, what makes it different, and why it holds the key to unlocking some of the biggest mysteries about human health and evolution. So
we're gonna delve into this DNA thing. Very interesting because it's a recent science. It's a new science. Say about 8 years old, something like that. I think the first genome was discovered in the 1950s, and they've been breaking it down ever since, and more research. And now everybody's doing the DNA thing and all that stuff. So before that time, racism believed that there was all these different races. But what that man telling you is everyone is one. We all are one race. Africa is the place where everybody started on this planet. Everyone can trace their deepest roots back to the continent of Africa. And DNA is now showing them that they need African DNA. They need to study it because they're finding out all this stuff about diseases and resistance to things and all kind of thing. You see, I was reading this, I do some research on this, right? I was reading this science book, paper about where white people came from, because I wanted to know, where did white people come from? How did they come about? And they come about in full about in the DNA story until 8,500 years that they are there a lot. Before that time, everybody in the planet was some different shade of brown. Everybody was a different shade of brown, be it dark, that is black, or light, but it was brown all the time. And then about 8,500 years ago, some of that group lost all their pigmentation completely. Now, that group of brown people even had blue eyes, especially in Europe. In Europe, they keep finding these old skeletons, 10,000 years old. And now, through the DNA, when they go down into the DNA, they discover that this skeleton, they found one in Sweden recently. You know the one they found in England, right? Which they did. They found that he had brown skin, blue eyes, black hair. They found one in Sweden, 10,000 years old. Same thing, brown skin, blue eyes, black hair. So this blue-eyed thing was already there before the pale skin, right? And they also found that in Africa, the group that has these two genes that make up the pale skin more than any other African group is in Ethiopia. So it's there, but that gene hasn't come out in Ethiopia, so then people is still brown. But that group of people amongst the Africans has that gene more than anybody else in Africa. Right? So anyway, let's get to the next part.
But it's not just about ancient DNA. Even today, African populations continue to hold genetic variations that are rare or entirely absent in other parts of the world. This makes African DNA a goldmine for researchers
African
studying
DNA,
genetics,
goldmine,
evolution, and even modern medicine. This incredible diversity and uniqueness mean that African DNA isn't just about understanding the past. It's crucial for the future.
It's crucial.
It provides insights into how humans can adapt to diseases, environmental changes, and other challenges.
Yeah.
For example, by studying the genetic traits of African populations, scientists have made breakthroughs in understanding diseases like malaria, HIV, and even cancer. In the next section, we'll explore why this diversity is so important, not just for Africa, but for humanity as a whole.
You listen to what he's
Genetic
saying.
diversity isn't just a scientific curiosity. It's a critical factor in understanding the survival and adaptability of our species. But why does this matter so much? And how does African DNA play a central role in this story? Genetic diversity is the foundation of adaptability. It's what allows species to survive and thrive in different environments. The broader the genetic pool, the more tools a population has to overcome challenges like diseases,
Broader.
climate changes,
Broader.
and environmental pressures. African DNA, with its unmatched diversity, carries a wealth of genetic variations that have helped humans adapt for thousands of years.
I'm sorry I did cut over him. Sorry for talking over him, but he said one of the important things they're looking to challenge is climate change and environmental circumstances. What's in the news at the moment? Climate change. And that's been talked about for a long time now. So, basically, what he's saying is, African DNA, you heard the man say, is a gold mine in order for our survival. So these people have come to realize for them to survive into the future, into this changing world, they need to go back to the source of their ancestors. Their ancestors who left Africa all them 70,000 years ago, and they left with certain genes that have not diversified in the way that African genes have continued to diversify. They need them back. They need to go back to the source. So where the racists were once preaching about racism and separate races of people, what DNA is showing people that we are all Africans and we all come from Africa. And now they're realizing it. They want to get with the original source. So all this pushing of mixed race, like these adverts and the mixed race children, all that stuff, showing it's now normalizing what they once hated. When I say they, I'm talking about the white Europeans, like in England and France and Germany and America. I'm talking about them because they hated the mere fact of mixing at one point, right? So I'm not putting down people who are mixed or who are in mixed relationship. I'm talking about how the white people once hated the mere fact of mixing, the mere thought of it. They did everything they could to not let it happen, right? Just think about America. Think about all them lynchings. Most of them men that were lynched was because a white woman was involved. Sometimes they didn't even touch the white woman. They just looked at her and that was enough for them to get lynched, right? They were burned. They were nearly always castrated. So their genitalia was always attacked. The part of them that could produce a child with a woman was always attacked, right? That's how much they hated it. The mere thought of someone like me getting with one of their women. And now it's the complete reverse. I can't turn on my television and not see a black man with a white woman. In this country, England, when my dad come here in the 50s, he'd tell me that when them white women who were brave enough to have mixed race children and walk on the street with them, they were spat at. They were insulted, right? Their children were insulted, right? Their children were spat at by other white people because that mother, that white woman dared to go, obviously, with a black man. Right? That's how it was in England. My dad tell me how it was. Right? Them women was brave to push them prams down the street. Right? A lot of them had their babies taken away from them. Forcibly put into homes. Not even adopted. Foster homes because people didn't want. Black people weren't allowed to adopt those children. White people were allowed to adopt them and most of them didn't want to. Black people weren't even on the radar for adopting mixed race children. Can you imagine that? The people who would treat them the best weren't even allowed to. So now basically, DNA science has showed these people that they need the original people. They need their DNA. They need the Africans in order for them to progress into the future, for them to carry on, for them to adapt things that the Africans have. They need to include the Africans. They need to be with them physically and, you know what I mean by physically, to produce so they can keep carrying on. Once they hated us, now they want us.